What's up YouTube and welcome to the Permadeath Collective. I'm your host today, Terra, and today we're going to be starting the playthrough of Spyro Reignited Trilogy. We're going to be playing 1, 2, through all the way to 3. We're going to be 100%ing or getting max percent on each game. For the most part, the only things I'm going to be missing out are skill points because they're pointless. There's no need to get them. So I'm going to be playing on another slot because I already have fully completed slots from my first playthrough of these games. So we're going to start with Spyro the Dragon. Now, I cannot continue with the Ocarina of Time randomizer, so that series will be removed because about a week ago I had to reset my PC back to defaults because my partitions were completely screwed and I had to fix them because it was causing issues with my drive. So, to do that I had to reinstall Windows, I couldn't pull everything off, and I had to take priority with my stream setup stuff. So, unfortunately, I lost all of my data, including all recorded content for Ocarina of Time randomizer. So we're going to be playing this instead. Now, Spyro is a series that holds near and dear to my heart. I played these games so much as a kid. Like, Spyro Year of the Dragon was my first ever PS1 game. So, I played them in reverse order. I played 3, then 2, and then 1. We're also playing as Dark Spyro because Dark Spyro is cool, man. He'd be some cool peoples. Now, as it pertains to the Reignited trilogy, whether I prefer the originals or the remakes, Spyro 1, no contest, the remake is 1,000 times better. Spyro 2 is middle ground for me, it's good. I don't know which one I prefer. Spyro 3, I do prefer the original. In fact, I speedrun the original. Actually, yesterday I got a new personal best of 1 hour and 9 minutes in 100 egg, which is fantastic. My first one, sub 110. So that is awesome. So if you want to follow me on Twitch, that link is going to be in the description below. But yeah, let's get into playing this. Now, Spyro 1, in fact, shouldn't take too long to beat, because Spyro 1 is not a very long game, and it's not a very difficult game to do either. There are a couple of challenging sections, but for the most part, it's not really that difficult. But of course, it is a game aimed at smaller children, so it wouldn't be. But the later games do definitely include some difficult sections. So, at least in 2 and 3, there are going to be some sections where I probably will die a few times, because there are some difficult sections. Although the Reignited trilogy really did sort of go a bit weird with its difficulty curve, because... So, if you don't know the way it works, at least in Spyro 3, the original, the more you don't die, the harder it gets with enemy placement. They didn't do that with Reignited, so the difficulty is just pretty solid all the way through. But the way they did it was, with Reignited, was they kind of changed how difficult certain sections are. Like, for example, in Spyro 3, the hardest boss in that game, in my opinion, is Spike. Spike can be an incredibly rough boss fight if you're not prepared for the way it works and how you fire projectiles at him. Now, in Reignited, he is really easy because of the way the projectiles work, which is kind of weird. And then, like in Spyro 2, the Gulp fight before was a challenge, but nowadays it's ridiculous. In Reignited, it's the hardest boss fight, so it's just kind of strange, really, how they changed everything to make some things harder and some things really easy, and it's really bizarre. I mean, you do expect it with a remake, because remakes obviously do change a lot of things, but it's still kind of weird to me that they made that choice, considering that they decided to just... I don't know whether it was intentional or not. I doubt it. I think they tried to make all the boss fights slightly easier, but in turn, some of them are a lot more challenging. Now, for anyone who's achievement hunted on Xbox or trophy hunted on PS4 would know, there is an achievement/trophy in Spyro 2 where you have to defeat Gulp without collecting any fodder. Now, what that means is, in boss fights, if you take damage enough, they will start dropping health drops, like, you know, animals you can incinerate to get health for sparks. Now, fodder, that's basically what fodder is. It's the enemies you destroy to get health for sparks. Now, with the way that that fight works and how accurate Gulp is with his hits, it's actually an insane challenge to get that achievement. I remember my first playthrough, because my original playthrough of Reignited was on PS4. I'm playing on Xbox One, by the way. Obviously, if you couldn't tell from the title screen, I'm playing on Xbox One. on PS4, it took me nigh on 10 hours of straight gameplay to do it because it was that hard. Because Gulp has what I like to call... So when I get into a boss fight, either on Twitch or whatever, and the boss fight is really accurate, I call it Sephiroth accuracy. Dawning back from the days of FF7 on PS1, where Sephiroth's attacks are insanely OP and insanely accurate. And Gulp has a lot of Sephiroth level attacks where he will destroy you if you are not careful. But we've done the homeworld, let's go into the first level of the game that we're going to do, Dark Hollow. This is by far one of my favorite levels in the whole game. It's just a very simple, very basic, but very eerie designed level. It's very cool. Now, there are a couple of glitches that they never did patch, which is kind of unfortunate because you would expect them to have patched them by this point. One of them being where Spark sometimes just refuses to pick up gems. Typically, that only really ever affected me in Spyro 3, but it can happen in the other two. So that will probably happen at some point, so... If I miss a gem, it's more than likely because I thought Sparks would have collected it, but never did, so... There's that too. But the playthrough of this should not take too long, like I said, because Spyro 1 just isn't that long a game at all. It's a very basic game. Again, way back in the day, you know, they were already pushing the limits of PS1 hardware when this game came out, because the PS1 was a weird console to develop for, because... Alright, so I learned this by... Oh my gosh, I forgot I was there. I learnt this from streaming. So the PS1 does not stay native at one resolution. Now, what I mean is, so you know when you play like PS4, you can set the resolution to whatever you want that it can support, right? I think the lowest is 480p. And the highest being 1080p. Well, depends. So some games support 4K, and if you have PS4 Pro, you can support 4K. But normal PS4 supports natively 1080p. Now, the weird part is PS1's resolution is constantly changing. So... They had to design the games in a way where the resolution could change without any noticeable difference in the game itself, and it's quite a curious way. So, like, PS1 definitely was not easy to develop for, and I think that's why they went sort of easy with Spyro 1. And also because they probably didn't know how well it would sell, because, again, back in those days, games like this were sort of hit and miss. They would either sell really well, or they wouldn't sell at all, and... They sort, like, you know, I think they learned from Crash 1, obviously not the same devs, but they learned from the sales of Crash 1 that there was a market for games like this, you know, good platformers with solid challenge, you know, with collectathon stuff to it, you know, so that I think they learned from Crash 1, because I believe Crash 1 came first. I could be wrong, but I believe Crash 1 came out before Spyro the Dragon did. It wasn't too long after when Spyro the Dragon came out, but I know it was a little while after. So, they kind of learnt from Crash 1 that it's okay to, you know, add a decent challenge into these kinds of games and give it the due it needs to actually be feasible. There's an achievement if you just light these two torches as well. I'm not going to show you how to get every achievement because there's no point, but, you know, there are guides out there that will tell you exactly what you need to do. But the achievements themselves are quite basic, and they give you a decent understanding of what you need to do. Providing you know the levels well enough, you should be able to get all the achievements, no issue. Now, it's going to take me a couple of levels to get reused to these controls, because like I said earlier, I've been speedrunning Spyro Year of the Dragon on PS2. So, I'm kind of used to the old style of control. Oh, I thought Sparks wasn't picking up gems, then I realized I didn't have Sparks. Okay. So, I'm kind of used to the old style of the control. And it's a little bit weird. I'm also playing, I believe, with the original soundtrack. Yes. Because I don't mind the new soundtrack, but it's a bit too ambient for me. I like my soundtracks being full of volume and life, so... And besides, Stuart Copeland, the OST creator, he did a fantastic job in all three games, and I feel like that deserves a bit more respect, because the Spyro soundtracks are some of the best in all of gaming, in my opinion. They are fantastic, and for anyone who doesn't know the story of how he created the soundtracks, so he played through the entirety of the games before he designed the soundtracks. So he knew... Oh, I didn't get all the gems. So he knew what he was going for when it came down to creating the tracks, which is really cool. Because, you know, it gives it more of an authentic feel if the designer actually played the game before he went and designed tracks. I feel like that adds a bit more to its levity, which is really cool. And of course, Spyro holds near and dear to a lot of gamers, because a lot of gamers started out with Spyro the Dragon. A lot of people try and dispute which is better, Spyro or Crash, and I think it's unfair to compare them, because they're two platforming games, but they're two different kinds of games. I just pulled my headphone wire out. Oops. They're two different kinds of games. They're not exactly the same, so it's unfair to compare them, I think. Like, both Crash and Spyro are, you know, fantastic series, but, you know, bullet to the head, I had to pick one. I would pick Spyro, because I've always been a bigger Spyro fan than Crash. Again, not that Crash is bad, it's not. I'm a fan of Crash Bandicoot as well, so there is that, but I've always been a massive Spyro fan since I was, like, probably 5 years old. Spyro has always been my series. I've never, ever, ever, you know, been like, I prefer Crash, because, to be fair, I didn't grow up as much with Crash either. I did play Crash when I was a kid, but I didn't, you know, fully play through the games until much later on. So there is definitely that, which is kind of curious. And my dinner's ready, so just quickly text my sister to let her know I'll be down in a few minutes. Okay. Of course I would pick the time to record when my dinner is ready. Nice. Alright, returning to the artisan's home world. Now, which portal should we go in next? You know what? We're going to go in a little bit of a reverse order here, and we're going to actually we're actually going to go and beat the boss level. Because the boss levels you could basically go and do at any time. So let's go and fight Toasty. Now, this game is actually interesting with the way it handled its boss fights. Because the bosses themselves are inside their own selected levels, and they're actually levels you have to play through in order to actually get to the boss fight. It's not just, you know, going from a balloon to, like, the boss arena, it's an actual level, which is kind of interesting. And I'm kind of curious as to why they never brought it back, because I think it would have been dope if they brought it back personally, but it's an interesting way to do the bosses, because, you know, most games, including, like, the future Spyro titles, they did a similar thing, like, you know, to every other game out there. You go to a boss arena and fight a boss. Not many games, especially back then, even did it. No games now do it, to my knowledge. Or at least I haven't played anything in the past few years that was designed that way, so it's definitely, it was an interesting choice back then, and I respect that choice, and these dogs actually mess you up. Like, if you aren't careful, you can get wrecked by these things. So, we need to be careful, definitely. I'm also getting used to there being a free camera as well, because in the originals there is a free camera kind of, but it's not the same thing. Well, the camera in this is great. I do love the free camera. The free camera does make it work really well. Ah! Oops. No! Oh, pff, well. I'm an idiot. Well. That went great. Oh, I feel like a moron. Okay. Alright, let's just skim through this part, since we don't really need to focus on this part anymore. No, leave me alone. Okay. I am not falling off the edge again. Ah! Damn. Stupid dogs. I actually think that this is the hardest boss level in the game, as it pertains to the challenge, because those sheepdogs are insane. They actually do wreck you, and it's definitely for a first-time player. You will probably die a couple of times trying to defeat these stupid sheepdogs. I think they're sheepdogs. I could be wrong. I don't know too much about dog breeds, so no. Bird, scarecrow bird. No, I only fuse. No, ow. Where are you, Toasty? There. And we're missing 4 gems, and I think that these should be the final 4. Yup. Cool, and that's Toasty beat. So we're already, like, you know, the home world are 2 levels down, so it's pretty cool. But I'm going to peace out this episode, so thank you for watching. I have been your host, Terra, and this has been the Permadeath Collective. If you want to see more content like this, please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to look at our other content, and don't forget to join me on Twitch. That link is in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time.